Hello, everyone. It's Mary here. Welcome back to the 2016 Global Women's Leadership Summit session with Michael Bungay Stanier. Before we begin, I want to make sure you can hear us. So if you can hear me and you can see the presentation on your screen, enter something interesting into the chat box, like maybe your favorite color or your favorite country or your favorite vacation spot. Let us know where you're coming in from. And as those come into the screen, I want to thank you all for being here. My name is Mary Lagakis Engel, and I am the co-founder and managing director of the Global Women's Leadership Summit. And I'm so excited to have you all joining us today. We have people, oh my goodness, from South Africa, Italy. Michael, you've got people from all over the world here. Germany, the
That's
UK.
the miracle of technology, right? You can just dial in and connect like this. It's fantastic.
You've got people from across Canada, across the US. This is fantastic. All right, everybody. The Global Women's Leadership Summit, also called GWALS, is the world's largest online women's leadership conference with a simple mission to dramatically impact the leadership capability and prosperity of over 5 million women leaders by 2020. This year, the summit theme is Step Forward, because leaning in was only the beginning. We have a number of ways for even more women to step forward during this summit. We've made it easier for you to step forward and participate from anywhere because GWALS is mobile. Download the free GoToWebinar app to your mobile device so you can participate in every session from wherever you are. You can also step forward as a GWALS ambassador and be one of those women who helps even more women succeed. The gifts for ambassadors are unbelievable. You could qualify for a $10,000 private coaching program. Register to be an ambassador at www.gwals.com/ambassador-program, and that link is being put in the chat box for you right now. Let's cover a couple of ground rules here before we get started. The first one, please engage. Michael has asked for all of us to be ever present, fully engaged, and to turn off any distractions, including your cell phones and desktop notifications. That's my request, not Michael's. Close your door if you need to so that you're fully engaged here with Michael in this session. We also want to encourage you to post your questions and comments. Type them into the question box as we go through the session, and Michael will address them throughout the webinar. Finally, make sure you take action. As you listen to Michael speak, listen for one thing that you can apply and take action on in the next 24 hours to help you step forward. Well, I have to say, I am most excited to have Michael with us today. Michael Bungay Stanier is the founder and senior partner of Box of Crayons, a company that helps people and organizations all over the world do less good work and more great work. Box of Crayons is best known for its coaching programs that give busy managers the tools to coach in 10 minutes or less. Michael left Australia 25 years ago to be a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford University, where his only significant achievement was falling in love with a Canadian. Gives me
Hooray!
Yay! We win again! Which is why he now lives in Toronto, having spent time in London and Boston. He's written a number of books. His latest, The Coaching Habit, has been praised as one of the few business books that actually makes people laugh out loud. But the book he's most proudest of is End Malaria, a collection of essays on great work from leading thinkers that raised $400,000 for Malaria No More. Michael was the first Canadian Coach of the Year. Pretty good for an Australian. He was recently named the #2 coaching guru in the world, which caught him by surprise, as he's not entirely sure why. Balancing out.
To interrupt Mary, Marshall, of course, Marshall Goldsmith was the #1 guru. So I know he's speaking at the summit as well, which is fantastic. But I'm out to get him. Not really. But it's yeah, that was a great and surprising honor.
You have a couple of contests going on with Michael as of this morning with Marshall. All right, so here's something you all should know about Michael. He was banned from his high school graduation for the balloon incident, which I'm hoping he'll share a little more with us about. And he was sued by one of his law school lecturers for defamation. And his first published piece of writing was a Mills and Boon short story called The Mail Delivery, M-A-L-E. All right. right, Michael, we're so excited to have you here. So let's get started. Over to you.
I am excited to be here, so thank you, Mary. Thanks also to the sponsors that you can see on the screen because they help underwrite and support the great summit that we've got going here. But I am keen to get into this practical, engaging, highly interactive webinar with you called the 5-Question Leader. But we're really going to be tackling this whole concept about how do you step forward to have more impact in the work in your life. That's what the heart of this webinar is all about. And it's probably a little more interactive than most webinars you're seeing, so I need you to have your kind of fingers ready to type into the chat box. I need you to have pen and paper ready as well, because there's good science that says you're far more likely to remember stuff if you write it down rather than type it in. So you can see there my Twitter handle, @BoxOfCrayons. If you happen to be a Twitter person, feel free to throw that out in the world. To give you a sense of what this is about and why I love questions so much, here's a little quote. Everybody loves a good quote. Jonas Salk, great scientist. The moment of discovery is really the discovery of the question. And I want to give you 5 outstanding questions that you'll be able to use for yourself as you step forward into your expanding role as a manager and a leader, but also a way of working with other people perhaps as well to help them step forward into roles of leadership. Here's a quick, this is kind of what I look like. Honestly, my hair is never quite as neat and polished and shiny as that. It's a bit messier. But I will make an invitation that if you're enjoying this, you want to connect with me on social media at all, there's the Twitter handle you saw. But really the place I hang out most often is on LinkedIn. So feel free to join me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Michael Bungay Stanier in the entire universe, so I'm definitely the only one on LinkedIn. When I got married, I combined my name with my wife's. So I used to be just plain Michael Stanier, but now I'm Michael Bungay Stanier. Okay, a tiniest of plugs. What we're talking about comes from my new coaching book, The Coaching Habit. Dan Pink said some nice things about it. Marshall Goldsmith has said some nice things about it. I'll just say this, there is a ton of free resource on thecoachinghabit.com, so you certainly don't need to get the book. But if you're interested in videos and downloads and all sorts of other bits and pieces, thecoachinghabit.com might be an interesting resource for you right there. Okay, I've got limited time, so enough about me. Let's get on to another excellent webinar. Here's me doing my best Elvis impersonation. And I've got a question for you to start off with right away. It's going to connect with something that Mary just said, but this isn't one of the 5 questions, although it's a great question nonetheless. You need pen and paper for this. You need to write down an answer to this initial question. And the question is, how focused do you plan to be during the next 40 minutes or so? How focused do you plan to be? And I want you to give yourself a score between 1 and 7. 1 is basically entirely unfocused. You know, I mean to be fully distracted during this webinar. I've got my gadgets out, I've got multiple tabs opening, I've got a band playing in the corner, the kids are building a sandcastle in my office, whatever it is for you. You've got chaos all around you, and effectively this webinar will be just white background noise, my mellifluous Australian accent playing along as you try and deal with all the other chaos that's in your life. That's a 1. A 7, on the other hand, you're bringing Zen-like concentration to this webinar. You've shut the door, you've got the noise cancelling headphones on, you put a do not disturb sign up, you're really bringing your full attention. And of course, I don't mind what number you've given yourself, the choice is yours. I just want it to be a mindful choice. And whatever number you've given yourself, here's my recommendation. I'd like you to adjust your environment to fit the number. So adjust your environment. Here's what I want you to do. Type in your number into the chat box there. I want Mary to have a quick look and see what sort of numbers we're seeing from people. And Mary, as those numbers start to roll in, let me ask you, on a scale of 1 to 7, how focused do you intend to be during this webinar? You're my co-host, so I'm hoping it's a kind of a high number here.
The number I wrote down, Michael, is a 7, and here in the box we're getting 4s, 7s, 5s, 6s.
Nice.
Lots of 5s and 6s, a couple of 4s, and a bunch of 7s. A 6 with an exclamation point from Christine. I love that. I love emphasizing how committed you are to your number. And Caro says 6, but we'll try for 7 exclamation point.
I love it. I mean, everybody knows here's the challenge with webinars. Even when you have such a great list of curated speakers like Mary's put together here, we're still so easily tempted by our email, by texting, by all that sort of distraction that's going on. So I just want you to be mindful about how you want to show up, how you want to be on this webinar, so you get the most out of it that you're investing in it. Because you're giving us 40 minutes of your life. You're never going to get this 40 minutes back again. So make the most of it, and you get to choose how you show up on that. So I've got these 5 questions I want to share with you, and they're great questions. You're going to love them when we get there. But before we get to those 5 questions, I need to start with another number, the number 3, 3 different types of work. This actually comes from an earlier book I wrote called Do More Great Work. And it's a very simple model, and it basically says everything you do falls into one of 3 different buckets. It's either bad work, good work, or great work. Bad work, good work, or great work. Really simple. You know, somebody once said all models are wrong, but some are useful. So I think this is probably a wrong but useful model for you. And part of what I like about it, and as soon as I start talking about it, you start getting a sense of what I mean. So here's what I want you to put in the chat box for me. When I say bad work, what do you think I'm talking about? What do you think I'm talking about when I say bad work? And Mary, I'm going to put you on the spot here because you're the voice of the crowd. What do you think I'm talking about when I say bad work? I mean, you can use what you're coming up for you, but also what you're seeing in the chat box. What's that about?
Sure. I mean, I think bad work is the stuff that we produce when we're not trying so hard, when we're
Right?
making mistakes, we're not doing the things that are consistent with what we want to be doing, and so we don't throw as much energy into it.
Nice. Yeah.
That's
Perfect.
my
What
take. We've got a
I
lot of
like that.
response.
What are you seeing in the chat box?
Let's see. Poor results, failing, not engaged, half-hearted effort,
Sure.
ineffective work with no real purpose or usefulness in the world.
Okay, so look, people are trending in the right direction for sure, but here's an important distinction. What we're talking about here is not quality, it's impact. This is important. It's not a measure of quality, it's a measure of impact. Because ironically, for the people who are showing up on a summit like this, I bet they do everything at a high standard. And that's not actually as good as it might sound. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. And so I'm going to give you a blunter, more to the point definition of what bad work is. I think bad work is the mind-numbing, soul-sucking, life-crushing work, the work that makes you go, this is my one and only precious life, and I am doing this. What just happened here? So, you know, it's the emails that forever fill up your inbox. It's meetings you might attend where you go, well, that's 2 hours of my life I'm never getting back again. It's the bureaucracy. That's the, how did I end up doing this? Mary, do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I thought you might. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. And you can see how this has got this focus on impact. And I'm going to give everybody a key way of remembering this. And here's the key way. You see that up on your screen right now. Who knows what animal this is? Type it into the chat box. Take your best guess. What do you reckon I'm showing you here? And Mary, for you, any guesses what that is?
I'm gonna go with uh, oh boy, I'm gonna phone a friend here and go with wombat.
You nailed it. Well done. It is a wombat. So you might have heard from my introduction. You know, I live in Canada now, but I am Australian by birth, so I'm contractually obliged by the Australian Tourist Commission to show a picture of Australia in every presentation I give. And, you know, honestly, everybody, this is the key takeaway from not just my presentation, but from this entire summit. You need to visit Australia. Honestly, the wine is great, the beaches are great, the men are very good looking. So that's a key takeaway for you. But really the reason I'm showing you a wombat is this. It's an acronym, and wombat stands for a waste of money, bandwidth, and time. And that's a pretty good definition of what bad work is, a waste of money, bandwidth, and time. All right, that's one type of work down. You've got that, I know. Let's talk about good work. What do you think? So bad work, good work, great work. What do you think I'm talking about when I say good work? Put your best guesses in the chat box about how you think or define good work, and I'll continue to put Mary on the spot on everybody's behalf. Mary, what do you think we might mean when we say good work?
I'm gonna cheat a little. I'm gonna say it's a good use of money, bandwidth, and time.
It might be, you're right, it might be that. Um, What are you seeing in the chat box? What are people saying?
Impactful work,
Yeah?
meeting status quo, good impact, just enough to get by, uh, keeping things running, better impact, what you're paid to do.
You know, people are right on the money there. It's fantastic. The fastest way I describe good work these days is it is your job description. And of
Mm.
course, that can be whether you have a formal job in a big company or you're an entrepreneur or you don't work even, you just run lives for yourself and for others. It's your job description. So it's productive, it's efficient, it's getting things done, it's kind of moving things along, keeping things ticking over. But the challenge with good work is it can sometimes feel a bit like this. You know, that people will know this famous Escher drawing where, you know, you're busy, you're working, you're going round and round and round, but sometimes it just doesn't feel like you're making that much progress. Somebody said it's like maintaining the status quo, and that is often the case. Because as important as good work is, because it is what your boss wants you to do, it's what your boss's boss wants you to do. And you know, as the new laureate Bob Dylan once said, everybody serves somebody. So everybody's got a boss, whether you have one formally and officially or not. It's the stuff that keeps that stuff ticking over. And there's nothing wrong with good work inherently, other than it does keep you stuck in a bit of a comfortable zone. You know, when you're doing good work, you might be busy, you might be stressed, but this is no longer you at 8 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. It's more you at kind of 6 out of 10. The other challenge with good work, of course, is that you just have too much of it. I mean, it just keeps coming at you. And so much of our way of thinking is, I'll just see if I can get all my good work done, and then I hope I can get some of my great work done. And of course, there's so much good work that you never quite get to wrap up and step into the great work. So we're doing great here. You've got bad work, you know what that is? The life-sucking bureaucracy. You've got good work, that's your job description. Knowing that, what do you think great work might be? What's great work? And again, throw some ideas into the chat box there. I'll continue to grill Mary. Mary, what do you reckon? How would you describe or think about great work?
I describe great work as being the work that adds value, the work that creates impact for people, that changes people's lives, that
Nice.
really, yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
think.
you're right on it. And what sort of language are we seeing in the chat box?
We're seeing wonderful language, wowing the customer, inspirational work that connects you to your value set and inspires you.
Yeah,
Work
it's
that gets
great.
recognized and feels rewarding, fulfilling, inspiring.
You got it. So people are perfect here. So I'm going to give you my definition of it, and it just is building on what everybody's saying already. And the way I think about it is great work is the work that has meaning and the work that has impact. And you kind of need both of those things. Impact is that sort of focus on what's the difference you're making in the world. It's got that external focus. You know, so somebody said delighting customers or whatever it might be. So impact really matters. But it's also the work that has meaning, the work that speaks to your values, the work that speaks to what you care about. And you're really looking for that sweet spot between the work that has impact and the work that has meaning. I'll give you a nice way of seeing the difference between good work and great work. And here it is. Good work can feel a little bit like mowing the lawn. And there you go. There's a lawn. And let's face it, that is an awesome looking lawn. I mean, look how green it is. Look how they got that kind of stripy thing going. I never know how they do that, but somehow they get those stripes happening in the lawn. And if you just mowed that lawn, you'd be thinking to yourself, I've done a nice job there. I'm proud of that lawn. But if that represented your year's work, you think to yourself, look, I've mowed the lawn, I've done a nice job, but it's not like you look back over that lawn and go, see that third green stripe from the bottom? Man, I really nailed it there. And that top green stripe, well, the team was really up against it, but we rose to the challenge. We really made a difference. This is what good work looks like. Great work looks a bit like this. See, come the end of the year, I don't want you to be going, I mowed a lawn. I want you to be going, I created an elephant. See that hedge elephant? That's what I did. That's what I want you to be able to point at. And you'll notice that there's a lawn there, and the lawn's pretty good. But really, you want to find a way of bringing focus and engagement and intentionality to the great work you want to do in the world. Because if you don't, you never quite get there. You have to make a deliberate choice to do more great work. Mary, is that making sense to you?
I love it. It made me smile big as soon as I saw it. And I think that's the definition of great work. I mean, I love to see a nicely mowed lawn that's got the stripes in it, but as soon as you put those elephants up, I just went ear to ear smiles.
Exactly. So I'm going to project here. I'm going to make stuff up, but I bet there's a bunch of stuff that Mary does to make a living, to have a good life, potentially coaching people or training people. She'd go, look, I love doing this, but it's good work for me. I know how to do it. It doesn't really stretch me anymore. I feel fulfilled. I feel happy, but it's not the edge for me. And I bet that GWALS, this wonderful online summit, is part of what is Mary's great work because it stretches her, it grows her, speaks to her values, it has great impact in the world. And this summit didn't just happen accidentally. She went, I've got to put stuff aside so I can really focus on the great work that I want to do. Mary, I'm making all that up entirely about you, but I'm guessing it's probably partially accurate.
100% true.
Perfect. Now, here's the challenge with great work. It's how it feels when you're doing great work, because it has two types of feeling. You already know one of the feelings. It's just what you've already said in the chat box. It's exciting, it's thrilling, it's engaging. It's like, this is the stuff I signed up for in the first place. But there's another feeling involved in that as well, and here it is. It's fear as well. When you're doing great work, you're like at this crossroads. Excitement on one end, fear on the other end. Because when you're doing great work, you're stepping into a place of unknown, of anxiety, of uncertainty, of ambiguity. You're kind of on the edge of who you are and what you can do. So on the one hand, we all have this hunger to do more great work. On the other hand, it's much more comfortable for us to go, I'll just stick with the good work for now. So here's a question I want to ask you. I want you to just in your head, well, actually you can do this on paper if you want, just draw a big circle on a piece of paper, and I'd like you to divide that circle into 3 sections that represent how much bad work, how much good work, how much great work you're currently doing. If you don't have paper to hand, you can just do that in your head. And now you've done quite a quick snapshot of how much great work you've got in your life. Let me ask this question, and you can put your answer in the chat box. Put a yes or a no. Yes, I have too much great work right now. No, I don't have enough great work right now. I'm looking for some more great work. Let's see what comes in. Let's see if there are any yeses at all that come in. Who
I've got
has too
one yes
much
so
great
far.
work?
Oops, two, three
What do you say,
yeses.
Mary?
We've got 3 yeses so far.
Too much
Lot of
great work.
no's. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the bottom line for almost everybody here. They're like, I could do with a little bit more great work. That's kind of why you'd even show up to a summit like this. So let's get to these 5 questions that are going to help you figure out and find more great work. Because what you need to do more great work are these 3 key attributes. Focus, courage, and resilience. And I think the 5 questions are particularly good at driving and encouraging focus. So I'm going to take you through these 5 questions. They're 5 of the 7 questions that I talk about in this new book, The Coaching Habit. But I'm not going to just get you to hear what the questions are. I want you to work the questions. I want you to actually be typing in your answers into the chat box. And we've got about 20 minutes left, so we're going to have to hustle a little bit to get this done. So forgive me if I feel like I'm rushing you a little bit. What's important is not necessarily that you have a kind of deep coaching session particularly. It's more that I want you to see and feel the impact of these questions so that you can take them and use them and practice them beyond this webinar. And of course, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting Mary on the spot as we go through this. Now, here's the overall challenge. Here's the context you're answering these questions about, which is how do I do more great work? Because I know for almost all of you, it's like, I don't have enough. How do I do more great work? And the very first question is what we call the kickstart question, a way of kind of accelerating into a real conversation more quickly. Because so many conversations, be them coaching conversations or management or leadership or just normal conversations, there's a kind of slow meander it takes a while to get into the interesting stuff. And I want to accelerate that. And here's the very first kickstart question. It's simply, what's on your mind? What's on your mind? What I love about this question is it's both open. It says I'm saying to you, you tell me what you want to talk about. But it's also focused as well. It's like, don't tell me anything. It's like, tell me the thing that's exciting you or getting you agitated or worrying you or waking you up at 4 o'clock in the morning. What's on your mind? So I want you to sit with that. I want you to think about it. When you think about how could you do more great work, what comes up for you? What's on your mind? And Mary, let's try this out with you. Let me ask you, what's on your mind as you think about doing more great work?
I tell you, there's been something on my mind very recently, which has been, um, well, gosh, I think you sort of nailed it today. Is how do I become the number 3 world's guru coach?
Mm, nice.
And
Fantastic.
I know it has to do with impact, and it's really been about how do I make space in my life to have that impact and do more great work and become more of a force and impact in other people's lives.
Love it. So it's like, how do I scale up my impact to continue to have this force and impact in people's lives? And just so I know, is it and you're thinking about kind of as a coach or as a champion for leadership, that sort of thing?
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. I love it. And what are we seeing in the chat box? So I know people are mulling over it and then sharing this, but they can't see other people's comments. So, maybe you can just pick a few, maybe keep people's names anonymous just for the sake of, confidentiality. But what sort of stuff's bubbling up in the chat box there?
Okay, so we have a couple of people who are looking at finding new work, getting a job, or making choices about their career going forward.
Mm,
Um, I'm a do-gooder and taking on too much, keeping me from focusing and committing to great work. So there is a theme around a couple of people saying they'd like to do more great work. They're not being as specific probably as they could be in what kind of great work.
yeah.
Uh, somebody would like to solve the homeless issue in their
Wow.
city.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah,
Well,
courage to step
certainly,
down.
from what you're saying and what people say, I just say to the people listening in, the more kind of, you don't have to be too specific about it, but find a direction in terms of what might be some more great work, work for you. Um, I know you've got a hunger to do more great work. What's your best guess about what that direction might be? You don't have to have it perfect, but if you take your best guess, that's going to make the following questions feel more powerful and more relevant for you. And Mary, let's get on to those next questions because I think they're really going to open up the conversation. And I want to give you two questions in a row here. Two questions in a row. And I love both these questions. Question number 2 is actually the focus question. And here's my experience in organizational life and in life in general, is that people spend a lot of time trying to solve the wrong problems. And we'd all do better to kind of spend a little longer staying curious about what's the real challenge before we rush into action and advice. When we do our training programs and we're teaching busy managers how to coach in 10 minutes or less, they're like, well, what does coaching even mean? And the way we boil it down these days is we say it comes down to this. How do you stay curious just a little bit longer? How do you rush to action and advice just a little bit slower? So what we're trying to do is stay curious. These questions are so powerful for that. So this second question, we call it the focus question. And here it is. What's the real challenge here for you? Now, how this is written is important. It's very deliberate. Because I could ask, so what's the challenge here? And you can feel how that's going to get you a certain type of answer, but it's not going to be that thoughtful. It's going to be kind of firing from the hip. I could upgrade it slightly. I could say, what's the real challenge here? And now you have to work harder, right? Because you've got to figure, okay, there's a range of challenges. What's the real challenge? But things get really powerful when you ask, what's the real challenge here for you? And those two words at the end, for you, really can make all the difference in making this question a much more personal, powerful question. So that's question number two. I'm going to ask Mary that in a minute, but for everybody else, you might already start thinking, okay, I know my goal is to try and do more great work. I know what's on my mind in terms of where I might go or what I'm kind of thinking about in terms of what that might be. Now, your first question here is, what's the real challenge here for you? If that's on your mind, what's the real challenge here for you? But let me give you the next question as well. And it's this. It's actually what we call the best coaching question in the world. Okay, it's a big call, I know. And what I love about this is it's just a three-word question, and it's an acronym, and the acronym is actually AWE. So Mary, let me put you on the spot. I'm going to try and actually let me put everybody on the spot. Any guesses what AWE stands for? It's a three-word question. I'm calling it the best coaching question in the world, so it's got some magic to it. What do you reckon AWE might stand for? Mary, if I put you on the spot, what's your best guess?
Um, I'm gonna go with and what else?
Well, you nailed it. That's exactly right. And what else? The best coaching question in the world. And here's why it works so well. The first is this. The first answer somebody gives you is never their only answer, and it's rarely their best answer. And then the second piece is it's a great self-management tool, because if you're asking this question, you're not leaping in to give advice, to give solutions, to encourage people to do stuff. You're staying curious just a bit longer. So this works as a really powerful combination. Here we go. What's the real challenge here for you? And what else? What else is a challenge? And in fact, I'm going to ask Mary, as I'm going to ask all of you, 4 questions. Okay, it's going to sound like this, so you know exactly what's happening. What's the real challenge here for you? And what else? And what else? Okay, so what's the real challenge here for you? So we're going to just see if this takes the conversation a little deeper. I think it might. So you got choices. You can answer those questions in your own pace in the chat box or writing them down, whatever works for you. Or you can follow along and answer them as I ask Mary the same 4 questions. And Mary, let me ask you. You know what your challenge is. It's like, how do I scale up? How do I increase my profile? How do I increase my impact in this space of leadership and coaching? So knowing that, what is the real challenge here for you?
So I was thinking about this while you were describing these questions, and there were a couple of things that came up. I think our audience will relate to both of them. One is that thing called imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Why me? What's so great about me that I should be on that scale? And then the other one has been cloudy thinking, just it's like almost like an indecisiveness, but not really knowing what I'm deciding between.
Yeah, I got it. So there's the imposter syndrome, there's some sort of cloudiness which is not clearly defined what you're actually hungry for, what you're actually pursuing. What else? Is there anything else that's coming up as a challenge here for you?
Um, what else? It feels like there's likely a very large work effort involved.
I think
And
you're
so
probably
then it's
right.
also making choices around family time and things like that that are also important to me. So,
Yeah, I love that. And as a quick aside for folks, the question that lies at the heart of doing more great work is, what must I say no to so I can say a bold yes to the thing I want to pursue? And so often we try and just add it on to our already impossibly busy lives. And what Mary's pointing to is seeing the cost, the price you pay for pursuing your great work, because there is always a cost. You have to say no to stuff to truly pursue a great work project. So Mary, there's a lot going on there for you. You've articulated a bunch of stuff beautifully, and I appreciate the vulnerability you're sharing with everybody else. But let me put you on the spot here going, okay, so with all of that, if it came down to it, what do you think the real challenge here for you might be?
I'm I'm gonna say that I'm probably stubbornly holding on to all of it And that's why I'm being a little bit cloudy and letting myself off the hook a little bit by saying maybe I'm just not good enough or
Right.
shouldn't deserve that. And it's more of an excuse so that I don't have to let go of the things that I want to hold on to.
Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate you saying that. Thank you, Mary. And everybody else is thanking you as well. I'm sure for role modeling that. What I loved about it is you kind of took the challenge down to that next level of depth. You're seeing the first wings you talked about, powerful as they are, were almost symptomatic of something else a little deeper, which is trying to hold on to too much, trying to do too much, and kind of running into quicksand a bit because of that, because it's impossible to hold on to everything. So marvelous. I bet you there's some cool stuff showing up in the chat box, but you know what? We're going to press on because I know times are ticking and I want to honor the time that we've set people here. I want to get us to the fourth question. We call it the foundation question in the book because it's so kind of at the heart of what it means to show up in your own life, to step forward in your own life. One of my thought leader heroes, Peter Block, says, it's about taking responsibility for your own freedom. And this question lies at the heart of taking responsibility for your own freedom. And here it is. It's a simply and difficultly, what do you want? So Mary, let me put you on the spot here. You know what's kind of at the real challenge here for you. So seeing that, what do you want?
Okay, what do I want? I want to realize my full potential. I want to be of service. And I want to be loved.
I love it. So there's something about what you're seeing in Mary's answer, and probably as you're sitting with this yourself and trying to figure out what do you want, it's like it takes you down to that kind of more bedrock piece around if this is at the heart of it, if this is the deeper need, if this is the deeper want I have, now what do I need from there? What choices must I make from this place? And you know, there's tension. There's a balance in what Mary's going to be striving for in that. But what we're getting to is a deeper place to play and think about the challenge at hand. Now, of course, in your bigger life, you don't have to just stop at what do you want, because you can remember that powerful question. And if we had more time, I might go, okay, so what else do you want, Mary? And what else do you want, Mary? Okay, so Mary, what do you really want? And you can almost guess that that's going to take the conversation into a slightly different, more nuanced, more powerful place. So again, I'm going to encourage you, because writing it down helps you process this stuff. Write down your own answers to this. What do you want? What do you really want? You know you're trying to do more great work, so you know what's on your mind. You've figured out what the real challenge is here for you, and you've probably gone deeper in that than you thought. And knowing what the real challenge is for you, what do you want? So feel free to share that in the chat box. It's just useful. Mary, what are you seeing kind of bubbling up in the chat box? I mean, I know we're running out of time, but I'm curious to hear some of the stuff that you're seeing there.
Yeah, so there's some consistency for people with what I want,
Yeah,
and then some want to have more fun, be more in control, make a real difference.
yeah. It's speaking to why people are showing up at this summit. You know, I want to step forward, whatever that path might be in people's lives.
Yeah.
We're almost done. I've got one more question to share with you. It's the learning question. And Mary talked about this a little bit at the start about what are you going to take away from this? Because here's a challenge for all of us in this field, is that people don't learn when you tell them stuff. You know, as awesome as this webinar has been, people just don't learn when you tell them stuff. You know, it goes in one ear, it pretty rapidly exits and leaves the other ear. They don't even really learn when they're doing stuff, even though you're writing stuff down. When people learn is when they have a chance to reflect on what just happened. And it's in that moment of reflection that the new neural pathways form, that the new aha moments happen. So the learning question, which you can add to at the end of almost any conversation, is this: what was most useful, or a variation, what was most valuable here for you? So because we're closing in on the end of this webinar, I'd love you to reflect back on everything we covered in this fast 40 minutes or so, everything from the check-in question, the definitions of bad, good, and great work, any number of the different metaphors that I've shared with you, any number of the questions. What has been most useful for you or most valuable? And in that chat box, I'm actually going to ask you to write down two things. First of all, what's been the key insight for you? What's been the one key takeaway? And secondly, what is the one action that you might take to make sure that this 40 minutes actually makes a difference? So what's the one key insight? What's the one key action? Put that into the chat box for me now. Mary, what are you seeing in the chat box? Let's hear from the folks.
I'm seeing what I must say no to. Others love the wombat. Awe. Ask questions, never tell. Oh my goodness, focus. We have so many people on the line participating in this, Michael, that the list is just going on and on and on. People
Mary,
will
let me ask you
schedule
this.
time weekly to read your coaching refresher content. Very
Oh,
smart
fantastic.
thing to do.
Very smart. Hey Mary, is there a way of, and I'm putting you on the spot. I don't know if Mary or Ellen, our tech person in the background, that can help us with this, but maybe putting some of these comments onto the Facebook groups or the LinkedIn groups you have. Is there a way of sharing it more broadly, or is that kind of impossible? It might be.
It is absolutely possible, and in fact, everybody who's here can head over there right now and share it themselves, and then anybody whose comment we don't see there, we can go ahead and capture these comments and start pasting them over there, because these are really fantastic inputs.
Yeah, it's a rich conversation, and I know one of the challenges with this platform is that you don't always get to see what everybody else is typing. So a way of kind of sharing that, knowing that you've got a great community of women who are looking to step forward like you, could be a really powerful piece to do. Look, I've got just a few very quick reminders. These are kind of resources for you if you wish. We've actually got a 30-day e-course based on this. We've got micro-learning, boxesofcrayons.biz/5QL. If you sign up, you get, I think it's 10 or 11 very short lessons over the next 30 days just to help you remember some of the stuff that we covered in this. So boxesofcrayons.biz, B-I-Z or B-I-Z, depending on where you are in the world, 5QL. There's me with a haircut. I need to get a haircut. I'm looking at myself in the mirror at the moment. I'm kind of shaggy at the moment, but that's okay. I'm on LinkedIn, so if you'd like to connect with me there, that would be wonderful. Look, okay, this is the real ask. So the book is out. It's been out 6 months. It is doing really well. It's been the #1 coaching book on Amazon pretty much since it launched. I have set an audacious goal, which is 1,000 reviews on Amazon by its 1-year birthday, which is March the 1st. That's my goal, to make it into a coaching classic. So if you happen to pick up the book, and you happen to even read the book, and you happen to like it enough, a review or a rating on Amazon would be very much appreciated. And of course, you don't have to pick up the book at all. Just to say, there's a ton of free resources at thecoachinghabit.com, videos, all sorts of things. So you're welcome to go there. And there's my final offer for you, boxesofcrayons.biz/resources. There's a nice little report there, the 4 surprising phrases to supercharge your conversation and boost your manager IQ. So, Mary, I realize I'm giving a ton of stuff up there, so I hope it's not too much for people. But Mary, that's it. I'm dropping my mic. I'm handing it over to you and going, our work here is done.
That's fantastic. One quick question, Michael. Is your book on Odyssey?
I don't think it's on Odyssey. It's on Audible, so there's an audio book and a Kindle book, of course. But I'm not sure what Odyssey is, so I'm guessing it's not there.
They're saying Odyssey, but I know of Audible, so that's
Yeah.
great. Okay, let's wrap this. Yes, Audible is what they meant. Okay, let's wrap this up. So, Michael, thank you so much. You have been so generous, both with the 5 questions that you've shared with us today and all of the amazing free resources. So, everybody, we're going to be watching for your comments and questions on the Facebook page and the LinkedIn page. Michael will be there. We will post some of your comments, but we'd love for you to go and post them there yourselves. Continue the discussions and network with all of our presenters and participants, and those links are there for you in the chat box. When the webinar ends, you will have the opportunity to give Michael feedback and a testimonial. Please take a moment to complete that survey. And I invite you all to enhance your experience of this year's summit by upgrading your access to the full or commemorative program so you can listen to that session you missed or that one you're dying to hear again, and also receive some of the slides for many of the sessions, plus any additional opportunities that we've provided for you to step forward and advance your leadership. Visit www.gwalls.com/upgrade to find out about the enhanced summit programs. Michael, do you have any final thoughts you would like to leave us with before we end the session?
Yes. First of all, never really take anybody's advice because mostly it's not very good, including my own, including that piece of advice. But secondly, the danger of a summit like this is you get overwhelmed by brilliant ideas, but then nothing actually happens. So one of the things that you could think about is going, look, if there's nothing happens, it's almost like I didn't bother showing up. So keep focusing on, so what will be different as a result of this webinar and all the other great webinars that you might be looking to attend.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you to all of our summit participants. You have been an amazing audience. We will see you at the next session.